and I had to go through bankruptcy.
Oh, wow.
And it was because I became an ostrich and I was making enough, but I wasn't managing it.
Right.
And so I befriended money, and I wanted to have the kind of relationship with money that I would a best friend. And so a KVI for me is making money. I really enjoy making money.
It doesn't have to be. So many people have those on opposites, that if I'm a human-centered, grounded, soulful helper, I can't want to make money. Like
That's
that,
right.
those can't be on the same person. Like it's
Plain,
often a
right?
belief people are hung up on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you help people shift those types of beliefs?
Yeah, I do.
How do you
I,
do that?
I've worked with hundreds of wellness providers in their private practice. And I would say the first part is that most of them come from a heart of servitude. So they're caregivers out of really wanting to make a difference for humanity. And most of them, if you go into their family origin, weren't taught about money. So the first piece is really, what's your family story on money? What did your parents make money mean? And how much did they teach you about making money? And I find that they're outliers, but most healers weren't really educated from their family about, maybe they got as far as a checkbook and balancing a checkbook, but they didn't get into LLCs.
You're listening to the Brave OT podcast with me, Carlin Nink. This podcast is all about empowering occupational therapists to step up, level up, blaze some trails, and maybe engage in a little conscious rebellion in service of our profession, our clients, our work, our businesses, and living our mission wholeheartedly. We are all about keeping it real, doing hard things, unhustling, being curious, exploring, growing through our challenges, and finding joy, fulfillment, and vitality as we do so. Really, we're OTing ourselves and each other. I hope you love this episode. Today is episode 50, a milestone I'm excited about, and I'm celebrating with Jason Stein, an acupuncturist, executive coach, and fellow wellness practitioner who's figured out how to blend soulful wisdom with modern business. We talk about natural rhythms, key vitality indicators, befriending money, and why sometimes the simplest things are the hardest to do consistently. If you've been feeling like your practice is running you instead of the other way around, or if you're struggling to make space for the vitality you need in your life while helping others, this conversation will resonate deeply. I'm recording this from Calgary, where I was born and have spent most of my life. This land, with its mountains rolling into foothills and prairies, its Chinook winds and persistent sun, sits within the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Siksika, the Kiani, and the Piikani, as well as the Tsuut'ina Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. I acknowledge the Indigenous peoples who have lived in relationship with this land for thousands of years and continue to call it home. I'm learning what it means to be a respectful settler in this place. Let's get into this conversation with Jason. Jason, I am really excited that you're here today. We met a few months ago only in Palm Springs at a Jane Ambassador event, and we really hit it off. So here you are. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. We did hit it off.
You went at one point for a walk and you bought cards, and you wrote many people little cards, and yours was something about that I got your sense of humor because we had so many laughs. I think it was that day or the day before where they had us doing some really fun kind of social media type activities, and we laughed and laughed that day. Now, I normally record a little Jane promo, and I wondered if we could do a little organic one.
Oh,
Yeah.
I am a Jane fan. If you're an OT and you are sick and tired of notes, AI Scribe
Life-changing.
changed your life forever. You will be shocked by how much passion for practice you get back with AI taking notes for you. And AI Scribe, I was a little hesitant. I was a little bit like, do I want this in the room? And I'm never going back.
No. When people tell me, like when people say I've got this long list, this burden of this long list of chart notes that's just getting longer.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, you're not using this stuff. You're just like,
Yeah.
why not? There is no reason to have a list of chart notes anymore because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just done.
You can finesse it so that it is simple, it's easy at the click of a button because you're doing all the things already.
Yep.
Like you're in that room really focused on the patient. And if you just speak a few things out loud, you'll be blown away by how much
Blown
you
away.
can do. And Josh, who is a chiropractor, I saw a post of his, he now has his schedule the follow-up.
Ooh,
And I
nice.
haven't figured that part out yet, but
Interesting.
sounds like
That's
Josh
really
has that dialed in. So
I
Jane
would
app, thumbs up, the vitality code, and don't pass go. Don't collect $200. Just go get it, try it. You'll love it.
I wrote a blog article recently that I'll share of how I used actually ChatGPT to customize my template in Jane to get the Jane AI scribe
Yeah.
tuned in and dialed in. And it's actually making way better notes than I ever wrote before.
Oh, it's taking notes that I used to think one day I'll meet somebody that can teach me how to make notes like that. And
Yeah.
my soap notes to the VA, the Veterans Affairs, is dialed in, and I'm not doing anything.
That
Okay.
is great. Yes. We love Jane and we think you will too. Sorry, my son's glucose, my son is type 1 diabetic. And
It
so I
just went
get
off.
alerts. His blood sugar is running a little bit high. He's already working on it, but I get
Okay. Yeah, that's the real deal, type 1. I don't think most people, when they hear diabetes, understand even a fraction of it. Most
You
people.
know, I studied in school, but did not know how it affects every minute of your life
Right.
until we lived it. Yeah.
I learned along the way because my high school girlfriend later in life got married, and her son from birth,
Yeah.
and she was a nurse.
Oh,
And so
wow.
she started a blog. And so through reading her blog, I really got it.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, it's the ins and outs of the day to day. What does that look like? That's the stuff you don't read in the textbook about what type 1 diabetes means
Yeah.
physiologically. Yeah. Tell us about you. What
Oh, okay.
you wear many hats, including the cowboy hat you're wearing
Oh,
today.
yeah. For the listeners, I wear a cowboy hat, which is interesting for an acupuncturist, but I have a very meandered path
Yeah.
of I started in psychology. I have a degree in psychology. I was on my way to get a PhD in industrial organizational, so workplace psychology. And I decided to become an acupuncturist instead. And so I stopped my forward movement to the PhD and I went and got a degree. And right out of school, I was given the opportunity to build an integrative medicine program in a hospital alongside physical therapists and occupational therapists. So it was
It's very progressive inside of a hospital.
absolutely. And this was back in, let's just say I've been licensed 25 years, a long time ago. So back when Health South was on the rise and they were buying up everything they could.
Okay.
And I was in New Mexico, and that was my first foray into occupational therapy. And then along the way, I started getting recruited by corporations to teach them meditation in the workplace and mindfulness skills, and became an executive coach, and then went back to my roots and I built a wellness center in the middle of nowhere, Eastern Oregon on the Idaho-Washington border. And so there's one person for every 2 miles where I live.
Wow.
And I love it. So we have my wife's a naturopath and we have a wellness center. And then the rest of the time I'm out coaching and doing trainings.
And your coaching and training focuses on other wellness professionals?
It did for a long time. And then about 5 years ago, I got recruited by social impact companies.
Okay.
So my clients right now range from fractional CFOs to coffee companies out of Guatemala to CBD farms. It's quite a range, but they all want purpose and profit. They want to get out of how do I just make more money to how can I have a life and build a company and be a good human being.
So these big corporations are recognizing that if they do this development within their executives,
Mhm.
like stuff that a lot of businesses might see as the softer human side, that they're recognizing the ROI of we invest in the development of this whole being, and that works for the
I've worked
business.
with those companies for trainings in meditation.
Okay.
However, my current client load are probably 2 to 17 employee companies. So they're
Interesting.
smaller,
Yeah.
but they make a lot of money and they do well
Yeah.
and they want to bring more. They want to bring, like, how do we bring sacredness to work? How do we, like, I always start every minute of a coaching call with a insight timer. So a chime goes off and we go down and in as much as we go up and out.
That is awesome. Would you like to do something like that, like in this moment on the
Oh, for
podcast?
the listeners, I can. I always have my insight timer open because I've had several calls today. You want to do it? The
Let's
only
try it.
so for the listeners, if you haven't been tracking with us because we're a little bit all over the place, we're going to do 60 seconds of going down and in. If you're not comfortable closing your eyes, just lower your gaze so that you can really reconnect to yourself. So we have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Three, two, one. Just gently you're opening your eyes if they were closed. And did you hear the chime?
No,
Ah, that's so fascinating. Yeah, Zoom strips it out. Jane keeps it in.
I might dub it in though.
Perfect.
And then what do you do after that?
With my clients, I usually start with a celebration. So what can I celebrate with them? And that was a tool. I went to coaching school, just like we have 6,000 to 9,000 negative thoughts a day. And so how can we start with the positive?
Do you have a celebration? I can share one too.
Oh, yeah. Let me think about it because I'm on the spot. It's no secret to anyone in my community, but I love my wife. I just adore her. And so her latest thing is gluten-free ice cream sandwiches made with raw milk. I would love her anyways, but man, we had those last night and I was like, this woman is a doctor. She's a yoga instructor. She's a personal trainer and she can cook like Julia Childs. So just in a healthy way. So yeah, that's my celebration.
And the delight of an ice cream, where we often think of it as a guilty pleasure, being aligned with how you guys want to eat. That's got to feel good. Like it's a joy.
Raw milk, a little maple syrup, and I think there's one other natural ingredient in there, and that's it.
It's awesome.
What's yours?
This morning I had a really light day on my actually this whole week is quite light in my schedule. So I did a bunch of traveling in July and I booked August to be like, hey, let's not overschedule and start to ramp up a little bit in September. So I'm still in the like tail end of the slower weekly routine, but as I'm thinking about launching Activate Vitality. So that's my main group coaching program for OTs, OT business owners, really all about thriving without the hustle and transforming our businesses to suit us and like first think about what do we need and want in our lives and then adjust our businesses to fit because a lot of people the business just runs away on them and before you know it you're not driving the boat anymore. And so I was thinking about how do I shift into that sort of launch season in a way that feels aligned and not hustling myself because it can easily feel like a hustle to be like, okay, gotta get a bunch of people in, gotta do lots of posts. Like it feels like a bit of a frenzy. And how do I not do that? And so I was using Claude AI. Actually, I've been playing around with projects and where in Claude, it's not Chat GPT in a project where it's like going up and informing the whole language model, though I don't assume it's entirely private. I was just doing a bit of a brain dump of what's all the objective data about my offers, right? Like, here's where my numbers are at. Here's what, works. Here's what's not working. Here's what's selling. Here's why people come. Here's the outcomes they get. And just, I got it to challenge a little bit of my perceptions, like where I'm like, oh, program's really hard to sell. That program's really easy to sell. I spend most of my time trying to figure out why this program doesn't sell as easily. And that takes up half my week and trying to adjust. And actually, within Claude, it highlighted, no surprise, that essentially the journey I'm on, that it pointed out that I succeeded in reaching my initial objective when I pivoted from a purely clinical practice like 5, 6 years ago to more flexibility for my family, more flexibility for me and my time, and that room for scalability, but not necessarily needing it to scale. Claude pointed out that I've done that successfully. There's actually no problems in my business. It's all fine. I've got some nice variety and diversity. Certainly, there's always room to be optimized, which was fun. But I didn't, until it was reading back to me a bunch of stuff, I didn't connect that essentially taking people from a really busy clinical practice where they don't feel a lot of time autonomy to a place with more looseness and more flexibility and room for gardening or paddling or skiing or whatever it is you want to do in the day, or teaching or taking on a
Yeah.
new interesting project, that I've successfully done that. And for some reason, it was a bit of an aha that I'm not really talking about my journey. And it's my journey. Maybe I need to talk about that a little more.
Ah, I love it.
Yeah.
AI is great for self-reflection.
Yeah, weird, right? Like it seems like the antithesis of it. Yet I gave it me and then it
Yeah.
spun it back to me.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's great. It's interesting because I was on a podcast earlier, Sacred Change Makers,
Okay.
and we were talking about the distinction between AI can be really good at like compassion or empathy. The way it writes, the language is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yet there's a distinction that the mirror cells, like sometimes you need another human being and a human element involved in that. And so
Totally.
I love that you and I both use AI, but we use it as a tool rather than the whole business. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yes, exactly. Like these connections, like even just you and I talking here together, or when we're talking to our clients or our advisors, that we're not opting out of those things in service of, yeah, just doing it. Because, yeah, there's so much power. And I know when we were all together at the Jane event too, it was a bit eye opening too, that I do so much wonderful Zoom connecting. I feel deeply connected to so many people on the internet that I've never met. And then you get in person, you go, oh, right. And I need this too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good, and it's not just other people. I think that we need nature.
Yeah.
I still practice 2 half days a week, and I love it. And what I find is that when someone's really disconnected, there's usually a correlation that they haven't taken a hike in the woods or gotten into the lake or been outside enough.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
It's a pretty much universal thing that we all need. And if we're not sure, there's nothing about going and being outside. It can't hurt anything.
yeah, yeah, and I know it's hard for if you're listening from a really busy metropolitan city to just go outside, look up and see the stars, or it may be the noise factor, like noise pollution's real, that if you go into the woods after being in the city for a long time, it's a weird vibration or energy,
Yeah.
and I'm just a fan. That's why I live rural.
Totally. I agree. And you know what? A lot of the research on the impact of nature is that you can get a lot of those same effects from actually watching nature on a screen, which sounds terrible, but it's true.
Mhm.
Or like with your house plants,
Yeah,
have some really great outcomes. Like I have 1 million house plants, and tinkering with my plants in the morning gives me such as like a just a centered feeling. And yeah, or even just like I will stand out in the grass in my yard. Like it doesn't have to be a full hike or anything. Like
right,
just
that
being in
is
the
true.
grass.
Just
Yeah.
grounding outside, and I can see the plants behind you, and
Yes.
I can just imagine the number of things growing and nourishing in your space, which is amazing.
I also do pottery, and so, like, I make a lot of the pots my
Oh,
plants are in as
yeah.
well. So there's another kind of connection to nature, right? The clay comes from the earth, and it's a bit unpredictable as nature is, right? That there are so many places that a pot can go wrong in the process. And I just flow with it organically. Surprise. See what kind of pot
I
wants to
love it.
emerge.
That's really well done, that piece.
It has a little drainage, like a little
Yeah.
drainage thing at the bottom, but it's not very deep. And so it catches, it still has to
Is
sit.
that drainage piece clay too?
Yeah, it's all one piece and then there's some
That's
holes in
amazing.
it.
Do it
Just,
on a wheel?
yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I go every Friday, not through the summer, but every Friday I go to a studio and play in the mud.
Nice. My kids are into pottery because there's a wheel down the street.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and I'm amazed because I've only done the wheel once,
Yeah.
and I'm a kinesthetic learner. I'm not auditory or visual.
So do you how you talk about you need to get into nature, and I see your posts all the time. You're regularly getting into nature, and you talk about how you see these patterns with the people you help that, so often when a person's dysregulated or not at their best, they need to get out. It's been a long time, and getting out into nature can be a nice reset. Are there any other things that you just know help, like a couple touch points that you're very often telling people to get in with themselves so that they can show up in their lives more wholly?
Yeah. The easiest one is our own eyelids. Like just closing our eyes when we're in a heated conversation can give us that half a step that we need to catch our breath and reconnect to a deeper truth than just being right, trying to
Mm,
prove our side of it. And so I was taught a long time ago that if you close your eyes and take a breath, sometimes you can get so skilled at it, somebody else doesn't even know that you have taken a step backwards just to reconnect yourself.
mm.
And so that's the easiest one.
So you could do it by just saying, "I just need a second," or you get good at just working it into the conversation,
That's
not
right.
to being weird and standing there with your eyes
That's
closed for
right.
5 seconds.
Hang on, let's both take a breath together. No, you can get weird, and that really is disconnecting. I
Yeah.
found, I'm trained in nonviolent communication. Marshall Rosenberg, and I think that sometimes the techniques don't work because they're disconnected. So I hear that you're doing this, and I feel this, and I'm guessing you need this. And so I think what's most important is presence. And whether it's being present with nature, present with your breath, present inside your own body, any tool or technique that renders you present is helpful.
And there are so many ways of doing that, right? Even just one of my kids at one point when he was playing hockey, he would have a depersonalization, like this sense of just being a little bit disconnected from his body, not total dissociation, but just this little bit. And I remember saying, just think about your big toes or just think about your stride, like just a way to come back. Oh my gosh, this is all a lot to okay, next stride. And then just refocus is to drop you back into the game and out of floating away. Big toe, just think of something. Is it a sip of water? Is it whatever it is you need in that moment? It can be very, very brief.
I love what you're saying because life is so full of paradoxes. And what I said was being present, and what you said is having a little bit of disassociation.
Mm,
People could think that's the opposite of being present, but I don't think it is. And this past year, I was really struggling with a personal family issue that was hooking me. And if you don't know
mhm,
what I mean by hook, it was like I started perseverating multiple times a day. Why wasn't it different? I had done everything that I could. I was taking care of my side of the street, and it just wasn't different.
yeah.
And so I took ketamine, which is a disassociation drug.
Yeah.
It actually disassociates.
Yeah.
And it gave me everything. It gave me into a window of there are times where we just need to surrender everything. And from that place, we can let people do exactly what they're going to do and be exactly who they're going to be. And it doesn't have to create meaning for us on who we are.
So from that place, you had this bit of breakthrough that you essentially can't control the outcome. Like you need to release the outcome.
That's right.
But on a conscious level, that wasn't working. You needed to get into that subconscious space to go, oh, I need to let that shit go.
Exactly. It's amazing because like a metaphor for an OT would be like you're focused on outcomes every time the patient comes in.
Mm.
Like you're charting outcomes, you're charting the plan, you're like doing the assessment, you're making your observations, you're listening to what the person's saying. And so that construct of taking some time to disassociate from it all is just an odd other pathway, but can bring relief.
And the extension of that is that person still might not be getting better. Like they still might not becoming more independent. They still might not, like whatever it is, the outcome is that objective change in the client. And you can have done everything right. And do you need to still obsess about what did I do wrong? What do I need to change? What, like, how do I, sometimes it's not going to, we need to sometimes release that, right? Like
And
it might not
it's
be the
great to
time.
release that because when you can do it, sometimes there's a secondary gain. So, for example, I had a patient last week. I abhor insurance, but a year ago I decided to take veterans
Yeah.
because I feel it's worth the painful, it's like peeling off a layer of skin for me to deal with the paperwork
Yeah.
when I can help someone that doesn't have to pay. Like that's one insurance I'm willing to do that for. And the guy came in and his numbers for his low back pain have only changed a minuscule after 10 visits.
Yeah.
As I started to inquire, have there been any other changes? He realized that he was in the Vietnam War, and for the first time since Vietnam, for the past 5 weeks, he hasn't had night terrors, and he usually has 3 night terrors a week.
Wow. That's huge. Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. If you would have been only measuring by your SMART goal of reducing his pain by X number of points, you would have failed. But that's not the point. And it really takes tuning in to listen to that big picture. And I think, yeah, sometimes insurance companies can be more focused on what was the goal you set at the beginning. And I'm often thinking, I don't know, we're going to do some stuff. We're going to turn a lot of corners. And I feel like whatever we thought the goal was on day one is probably not going to be the main goal once we get a little further into building insight and awareness and self-awareness and attention.
Yeah, I think it was John Kabat-Zinn who wrote Full Catastrophe Living.
Yeah, I've got 2 copies of it.
Yeah. So then what if measuring quality of life became more important than the metrics on a pain scale or a functional scale?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be a good world.
I think so. And I think a lot of us practice that way.
That is true. I think a lot do. I do think it's easy, especially in the insurance world, to start losing the direction. I think that's
Right.
it's easy in the corporate world or in the business world to focus on key performance indicators or what is the 6-month strategic plan and lose the bigger picture of when do we pivot and why are we pivoting?
Something I talk about in a lot of the coaching clients I have, the OTs who have businesses, shrivel up when they hear KPIs because they all left a hospital system mostly that cared more about their KPIs than anything. And but at the same time, having a business, we need to measure data. Like we still need to make data informed decisions, right?
Yeah.
But one of the ways I've been working with them is thinking about KVIs, key vitality indicators. So what are the vitality indicators in your work? Like in the kind of that your work is on the right track. If the goal is to have a business that's sustainable and feeds you, what are the indicators? And so I'm going to ask you to share if you could come up with a couple for you. So think about that. For me, it's that when I feel like, oh, I wonder what to make for supper, and maybe a bit of creative energy around supper rather than, oh my God, these people want to eat again. Like, how many times am I going to have to do this? That's a key vitality indicator. I know my vitality is it's if supper feels like a drag, and it really does feel like a drag for me right now,
Yeah.
being totally honest.
Yeah.
But just that there's just those things that I laugh in a day, that I have room to go for a walk or for lunch with a friend in the week. Those are indicators that those are vitality indicators that my work is aligning with what I need in my life.
Yeah. I like it. Like a traditional one would be for me a KVI. We say gratitudes at dinner every night and we always eat at the table. No screens, no books. It's just a time to commune. And so that's a huge one for me.
So if that was starting to drop off or you're missing a few of those, you'd know they're out of alignment.
Right away. And then the other, and this is a weird one, is years and years ago, I put my head in the sand and I had a business partner that embezzled money and I had to go through bankruptcy.
Oh, wow.
And it was because I became an ostrich and I was making enough, but I wasn't managing it.
Right.
And so I befriended money and I wanted to have the kind of relationship with money that I would a best friend. And so a KVI for me is making money. I really enjoy making money.
It doesn't have to be. So many people have those on opposites that if I'm a human-centered, grounded, soulful helper, I can't want to make money. Like
That's
that,
right.
those can't be on the same person. Like it's
Plain,
often a
right?
belief people are hung up on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you help people shift those types of beliefs?
Yeah, I do.
How do you
I,
do
um,
that?
I've worked with hundreds of wellness providers in their private practice. And I would say the first part is that most of them come from a heart of servitude. So they're caregivers out of really wanting to make a difference for humanity. And most of them, if you go into their family origin, weren't taught about money. So the first piece is really, what's your family story on money? What did your parents make money mean? And how much did they teach you about making money? And I find that they're outliers, but most healers weren't really educated from their family about, maybe they got as far as a checkbook and balancing a checkbook, but they didn't get into LLCs and how to set up your expenses and what expenses can you take and how can you invest in the States at a 529 and have college funds for your kids, and how can you have retirement funds, and how can one corporation pay another corporation so you get the tax break. And so I really kind of love getting into micro changes. Like, if
Yeah.
listeners invested just $20 a month in Bitcoin every month, I think you'd be surprised in 5 years how much your Bitcoin would be worth.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. If I think about my own early experiences, I'm thinking about my siblings. We've all been entrepreneurs, all four of us in one way or another.
Yeah.
But so there's this element of, "Yeah, I can do that. I could probably figure that out." There's this industriousness that, oh, it actually makes more sense for me to go do this myself than to do this over here. Like that it usually wasn't, I'm gonna go and make all the money. But we all four of us come from this place of really being known to be hardworking, which is great, but also there's a limit, right? Like
Yeah.
that identifying with hardworking can get us into overworking and burnout quite easily if that's our identity. And I love to be known as hardworking. And at the same time, right now, I don't want to be that hardworking, to be honest.
Yeah, but you're making an assumption that hardworking equals money. And for a
Right.
lot
Yeah.
of people,
And that's what I'm actually
hardworking,
saying. It's disconnected
yeah, it's
that
totally,
there's been all this focus on hard work, but not on the money. And
yeah.
right. Yeah.
Alan Weiss wrote a great book called Value-Based Consulting.
Okay.
And what if you were paid on the value you brought rather than the ideas that you brought,
Yes.
right?
I love it.
Yeah. And I just love that whether it's healing or transformation, there is a way in which you can get paid very greatly because of what you're bringing rather than overwork and outperform everybody and be like really struggling with debt.
And this is that shift from like when in healthcare, we're often paid hourly for our service, right? Our value is the hours we can give
Right.
and then the number of patients we can see in those hours. And that shift to, I actually have a whole lot of impact I can have. What are ways I can work that allow me to bring value that has value to somebody else that isn't necessarily tied to directly to hours? And
And
it's a
and
tricky shift.
and also we equate dollars which with our only need, as opposed to, I have a donation clinic for 2 hours every week and people bring food. Sometimes they bring gardening, they bring meat. And so I think that to be a brave OT, you got to not think outside the box. You got to blow the box up. You have to like really, people might think you're a weirdo, but weirdos have great lives.
all the best weirdos have great lives, for sure. I not a fan of the box. Where is the box? What box? Like,
Yeah, right.
what's the box? I'm totally, and actually a lot of OTs are that way. And I think a lot of people in your industry too, more in that wellness practitioner space, also are kind of unconventional and looking for a slightly different path than the mainstream. My grandfather was a naturopath, and his father was, before that, informally. There wasn't even professional training when we're talking about my great grandfather in Russia. But my opa, I remember him literally like on his deathbed, like he was within 2 weeks of dying. He was on the hospital bed in his bedroom, and my mom and I are sitting beside his bedside, and somebody knocks on the door, and his practice was in the basement. And she's looking for this, I think it was his formula for, he had this one particular formula that really helped people in a lot of different ways. And we're like, no, like he's not available. And could you just check? And so we went to talk to him, and I was like, yeah, you guys need to make it though. So you need to go down and get some of this and get some of that. And then you need to cook it on the stove, and then you need to strain it, and then you need to tell him to come back tomorrow. I'm like, really? We're doing this? And then I was like, of course we are. Like, of course we are. This is what's meaningful to him. And the guy, I don't think he paid. He had people bringing eggs, and it's hard to balance the books with eggs, but it all works, and it's
I love that
beautifully and
story.
weird and
And
awesome.
what a beautiful way to pass.
Yes, totally.
Like,
And that we could facilitate that in his end too. Yeah, very
well,
meaningful.
I remember one of my best friends is a naturopath oncology specialist. So he works in a big hospital system and he's a naturopath. And I had gotten a little disgruntled with practice because I just started losing like my way. And so I was still licensed, and he phoned me up and he said, I want you to meet me. And I was like, okay. So he gave me an address. It's on the 5th floor of a tower apartment complex. And I walk in, and again, Russian. There were 7 people around this woman who clearly was starting to phase into dying. And he asked me to bring my needles, and he said, okay, treat her. I was like, what is happening? He goes, you can't do any damage. Just go treat her. So I treated her, and that's what turned back on my love for medicine again.
Mm.
It was so beautiful. And she was so grateful. And I was so grateful. And he was so grateful, my friend, that I realized to do this medicine again, I have to do it in a way that works for my heart.
Mm.
And that's what I did.
That's great. So meaningful to be with people in their passing and be with the family members who want to take care of them. So often it's hard for the family members who want to do something. So I can so appreciate that so much of that dying process and palliative care is supporting all of the people there in that transition process.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful that it wasn't a hospital setting. It was beautiful that she didn't speak English and I didn't speak Russian. Just a lot of beauty.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you then made the shift after that to go, okay, so this needs to align with my heart, what criteria, like how did you become discerning about the way you worked after that?
One, I knew I couldn't work in a hospital, and I knew I couldn't work in someone else's office. And so what I did is I converted a shed in the backyard to a clinical space. And treating people in the backyard became magical rather than clinical.
I get that.
Yeah.
Totally get that.
It also brought the overhead way down,
Yeah, totally.
and it became a good write-off.
Yeah. Makes good sense. One of the models in occupational therapy, one of the like kind of ways we see the world is that we're trying to impact their occupational performance or an engagement, essentially their ability to engage in the things you need to and want to do in life. And we can have an impact on the person directly, the environment, or the occupation. And so sometimes is it stretching? Is it splinting? Is it teaching a new skill or a new way to approach things in terms of that person's stuff? Occupation, are we adapting the thing they're doing? Are we finding another way? Are we breaking it down? There are a number of ways we can change the occupation or the environment. How do we change the environment? Do we go somewhere else? What does that environment bring to the person? How does that environment and all of those things, it's like a Venn diagram, intersect to optimize occupational performance. So when you talk about I needed to not be in a hospital. I made this shed magical in my backyard and it all felt different. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. If you get that Venn diagram and you just sit with it, I would think there's a million different things you could create. Right.
Absolutely.
Like I've never seen an online course taught by an occupational therapy, like occupational therapy for able bodies, like brush with your left hand, right? It's like, imagine like the resources that the listeners have of all their education and like, how can you apply that? You could apply that in so many different ways.
This is my next venture. So when I think about dreaming big, I mean,
Yeah.
there are lots of OTs who are working outside of the disability space, but I've been thinking a lot about Adam Grant, right? Like he's an organizational psychologist, or Brené Brown, she's a social worker, or
Right.
Mel Robbins, I don't even know what she does. But there's a lot of interesting people who have a clinical background who are
Yes.
out there translating this to ways that make sense for everyday people and making it feel approachable, that it has nothing to do with disability or illness and everything to do with living and optimizing how we are engaging in life. And so I've been, figuring out what do I do to essentially, like I'm always talking to OTs. This is the Brave OT podcast so that OTs can listen to it. But what is the pathway to talking to the broader public on these things? And from a business perspective, it's a little bit tricky, right? Because the idea is niche down, get really specific about who your target audience is. But I just want to open up instead and still land.
Yeah, I can see it. And I bet if you and Claude have a few conversations, it'll just illuminate, OT for everyone.
Yeah, I have done so with ChatGPT a few months ago. And so we'll see what Claude, we'll see what Claude has.
I like it. There's definitely a book in there, and there's probably a workshop in there. Yeah.
Yes, ChatGPT said there was essentially a book, a different podcast that's more public facing, and then transitioning that into higher ticket speaking was the outcome.
I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I learned as an OT that everybody can use. That's like a TED Talk right there.
Yeah.
Nice.
But then you think about like Brené Brown, she talks a lot about shame, right? Like it was sort of niching into one message. It was her launching spot. And so figuring out what one specific thing people want to hear and then being able to have
Can I
that.
ask some questions about that? Because I'm fascinated.
Yeah.
Out of your whole career as an OT and as your KVI, what is one word that would describe your why?
My why.
Like to bring people closer to X. And what's your X?
Well, it's vitality. Yeah.
That's where you said KVI, right?
Yeah. Like I'll activate vitality is my kind of brand. I have a lot of things under it.
Yeah.
For
Don't
that
you
reason.
think that the normal person outside of an OT relationship wants more vitality?
They do.
Yeah.
They
Don't you
do.
think they wanted more activated vitality?
Yes.
I think you're already there.
Maybe. It's like you're my chat GPT. I should send you the chat. It said all of these things.
Oh,
You're better
that's
than my
great.
chat GPT.
I love that you're moving in that direction because I think that you're helping so many OTs. And it's almost the hero's journey where you started as an OT and then you got better as an OT and then you realized you wanted to help other OTs and you've worked with, my guess is hundreds of OTs, right? So now you understand the field of OT and who better to bring the field to OT to the average person than you. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks. It feels scary because it feels like, isn't that what every OT is doing? Who's out there treating everybody, right? We can treat all kinds of people and that sort of thing. But it is this idea of taking it out there into thought leadership that's different. And and I'm trying to talk about it more and more to create a bit of social accountability for myself. But it also feels like a bit, all the kind of self-doubt things that come in. Who are you to think you're such a big deal that you're the one to do this? There's all sorts of course, that's to be expected. But I'm trying to get used to talking about it publicly. People will be listening. So they should ask me about this in a year.
Well, what I did is I went and I found thought leaders and I would say outliers in consulting and coaching. And I found a group that is really going in and talking about sacred work that are really high level people. And so that's been helpful for me because I'm the acupuncturist that's doing the same thing that you're doing. I'm bringing in principles of East Asian medicine into working environments. That's where the minute came from. That's where I have a 5-element leadership tool came from. And so I would just say find some high level people that are already in those doors and just keep talking about it and new doors will open.
Getting into the spaces with people that you aspire to rather than stay in small, I guess, eh?
Totally. And it's a little bit different. I don't think it has to go staying small and going to bigger spaces. It's more the principle of you're going where people aren't. There's a great guy who was on the Fast and the Furious franchise. His name's Russell Brown, and he became an acupuncturist.
Okay.
He developed poke acupuncture in Hollywood, California, and has many famous actors and actresses on his roster.
Yeah.
And I once said to him, "You're so interesting in marketing. What do you do?" And he goes, "I don't go to wellness fairs. I don't go to PCOM, Pacific College of Oriental Medicine, or anything that any other acupuncturist is going to be. I'll go to Dwell or Architecture Magazine. I'll treat Paris Hilton, even though that was a pain in my ass." And so you're not going bigger, you're going to a different concentric circle.
Yeah, yeah. I like that. That feels more authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Opening the circles.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Who knew? I brought you on to coach me.
You can coach me too. We're all learning. We're all bozos on the bus. So we're all learning from each other.
Bozos on the bus. That's so good. What's next for you when you look into these next few years? What's growing and shaping or is
Ooh,
it coasting and like you want to keep doing what you're doing exactly the way you are?
both are true. Both are
Yeah.
true. So what's happening in the last couple of years, I built this wellness center in the middle of nowhere with my wife, and it's just like talk about flow. It's created itself, which is amazing. And so I am going to be working with more coaching clients. And the big what's next for me, because I know how to do that, is we're going to start running ketamine retreats where people come out to the middle of nowhere and they do a ketamine journey.
Yeah.
And we've done 2 so far, and they went beyond, like, mind blown. We bought an R pod last year, which is like a little RV in a half moon shape. And we have it parked on it's next to 10,000 acres of land. And so what's next is really doing more of those and bringing high functioning people to the property and letting them have a real sacred journey that leads to what's next for them.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Sounds like something I might need to do.
I hope that you come. We are not easy to get to. We're 4.5 from Boise, probably 3 from any airport, and we're an hour and a half off the freeway. So you gotta, and we're we're an end where you have to plan to go there. It's not a fare through.
So people who get there really want to be there. They have to really commit. And that I think that's important. It's a nice screening for like people are
Awesome.
coming in who really it's not convenient.
Yeah, what I love, we have Starlink on the property for emergency paces, but there's no cell range. So you're not going to be on your cell phone. And for the listeners, if you look up Eagle Cap Wilderness or you look up Joseph, Oregon, I live in the most beautiful place that I've been, and traveling a lot. I'm just amazed by the amount of beauty. I think there's 7,000 in the county and there's 1,200 in the town. So that's one person for every 2 miles in the landmass.
Wow.
And I want to bring people here to have that experience, to get out of head down, hard work, get her done mentality into expansion of If I pivot slightly, things can maybe be easier and more in flow and more connected to my family members and my friends.
Yes. We share a mission there for sure. I love that. It's really clear and really beautifully articulated.
Yeah. What's next for you?
That like the kind of shifting into a little bit more kind of outside of OT facing thought leadership is the bigger thing that's the longer string. But right now it's streamlining what is here because it can still, even though I actually have a lot of flexibility in my schedule, the way I automatically fill the time is less intentional because I'm a hard worker and all of the automatic choices that happen in a day. And so I've been working on there's essentially I like the space and expansiveness, but almost need a little bit more structure in that so
Yeah.
that I'm doing other things in a more structured way because it can feel like, I don't know, like I can't go for a hike every day. I can I could, but winter's long here. And what am I doing in the other time? So essentially there's this part of me that's working on getting a life that kind of finding a little bit more I'm in that I'm turning 50 next year. And so there's also this sort of perimenopausal shift in energy, and that's hard too. So yeah, I've got the time, but not a lot of oomph to go and do a lot of creative or a lot of physical or a lot of there's finding my way within that. The effort to stimulate the energizing to activate vitality, shocker, is tricky, right? Like it's just easier to just keep on working some days.
I hear you. I think when I have too much open space left to my own demise, it's not good. And so having that structure and having your natural rhythms. I've had 3 clients in the last 10 years that have written books and started things on natural rhythms. And one is Maisie Hill. Her book's called Period, and it's about menstrual and seasonal.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of wisdom to be learned about in these seasons of and women, right? We've got these rhythms within a month, within a lifetime, right? And being able to within a year, then there's the natural seasons we all have, and there is a lot to learn there.
What's amazing, we could do a whole nother podcast because of electricity and lights and happy lights and all of it, we've disrupted natural rhythms in a way. Where I live, the natives used to come to the lake in the summer and then they would go out further in the winters to be protected. And we don't think about that at all. We just have our daily life every day, and natural rhythms are so important, and everybody's natural rhythms are different. I often get clients that they know how to sprint, but they don't know how to rest. And so it's okay if you're a CEO or a founder to take 3 months off a year at different times, but you're figuring out where's your natural rhythm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just a holiday, right? What's that how is one using that time? How is one restoring, energizing? So a lot of people are inclined to go do another project. Cool. But is that an intentional choice? Is that because it's hard to not do? Yeah.
Is that an OT thing where it's part of the original foundation of OT, of seasons and rhythms and natural states?
It's definitely something I learned about different points. I don't think everybody did, but I remember learning about we're a holistic practice where we're looking like holism, we're looking at the whole person, all
Right.
of their systems in the context of all of their environments. And so looking at how those things connect. And I remember learning the wheel of life, for instance, in university. And then there are different models. Like one I really love is newer. I didn't learn it in school because it's new, but it's a kawa model. It's a Japanese river model. And we get people to reflect on the river. And so you get them to draw a river, and the river flow itself is life flow and priorities. And then the river banks are environments, contexts, social and physical. I put my note pinned to the wall. And then the rocks are obstacles and challenges.
Yeah.
Driftwood are influencing factors.
And back to nature. Back to
Yeah,
nature.
spaces are opportunities to enhance flow. And so the thing I really love about this model is that you would do this with a client. However, they conceptualize their river is what matters. They could do it completely different. You don't give them a template. You ask them to draw a river. And so when I've done it at different stages, like I've done a river for the lifetime of my business. What was happening when it started? What was happening when it pivoted? What was happening when things all blew up? What was happening here? And what's that context? A person might do that more so in a cross section and like, where is it all now? Or where was it? What does that look like in a year? And so I really enjoy those types of connections. Like we are often connecting to other natural sort of ways of looking at things and ancient wisdom and things like that. But it's not necessarily a fundamental part of our training.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. What's the name of that model that on the wall?
Kawa, Kawa.
Oh,
K-
I love it.
I'll
I
send you a link. There's a podcast I did that actually is a workshop, a Kawa
Oh
workshop,
yeah, I would
and
love that.
take you through it. I put a business spin on it, but a
Uh-huh.
person could generalize it broader than that.
Very cool. I was hired by one of the top acupuncture colleges in the nation to do business school, so I became the chair of professional development. And I
Cool.
remember my first week there, I met the clinical director and he was Japanese. And like I jumped in and I just had idea after idea and he was like, "Hang on." And he gave me a gift and he asked me about my family. And that was a real lesson for me, the younger me, of
Yeah.
like, there are things from other cultures, this timeless wisdom that is super valuable as we move forward to not forget.
Mm, yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So much to learn. I really appreciate you being here with me today. There are a few questions I ask everybody at the end of my podcast. Would you be open to answering them?
Absolutely.
Okay. What does being brave mean to you?
Ooh, that is a great one. To me personally, being brave means having the courage to do things, whether it's making a request of someone else or myself, to be in action about the life that I'm truly meant to have.
That's a great response. So many people, when they respond to that question, think outwardly about bravely approaching others. And I like how you included an inward courage to, yeah, check in with yourself, ask yourself to do something to
Mm,
increase that authentic connection.
thanks.
Smart. What's something brave you've done recently?
I'm on a board of directors and I thought about leaving because the executive director and I had some personality conflicts. And so I went to the meeting, I believe, to remove myself from the board. And when I got there, I realized that I needed to be open and curious to what was going on. And I realized that I'd made some assumptions about the executive director that weren't true. They just smelled true. They were memory of my past rather than the present. And so I gave a commitment to stay. And I realized that those assumptions, that was on me and that I owned it.
Really good. Because so many of us who practice in this space are intuitive. There's this sense of, I just know it's time, like it's just my gut feel like this. And, but so much of our, what feels like intuition is actually our traumatic experiences that made us watch for patterns. And if this sniffs of that, then it's probably that. And so that there's that wisdom you had to challenge your assumptions with openness and curiosity and realize, oh, it's actually different than I thought it was.
In the US, people love bumper stickers, right? And one of my favorite bumper stickers was, "Don't believe everything you think."
Yeah, totally. Most definitely. How would you like to see? I usually ask say OTs, but health practitioners in general be a little bit more brave.
I really challenge any healthcare provider that's listening to this podcast to be more brave by being honest with yourself of where your own health is. And if it isn't exactly where you want it to be, do one thing about it.
That's a good one. When I was talking earlier about my key vitality indicators and I was saying about having the energy for supper, it's actually a lot broader than that. It's like having the energy to do all the things that I need to do for my health. I'm I'm turning 50. There's no later, right? It's taking care of it now. And if
Yeah.
there was not space for it, or if my energy doesn't allow for it, I need to rejig where I'm spending my energy then, because that can't be last.
My acupuncture school, I had a roommate, and the roommate was a captain in the Marines, and he chose to either go to motorcycle maintenance school or to acupuncture school. And he chose acupuncture school, and he was very strong, wise personality. And he once told me a phrase that I just keep with me is, you can pay now or you can pay later, but you're going to pay.
Oh, that's good.
And so you're turning 50. I'm going to be 55 next week.
Yeah.
And I feel in really good shape. And I feel like it's because I make the time to make the deposits for me. And it doesn't have to be that you're working out 4 hours a day. It can be starting to walk, but do it regularly, right? So I have a thought process that the simplest things are often the hardest to do. But if you can do the simple things regularly and consistently, you will be amazed at how much your life will shift.
How would you like people to connect with you? People who are like, wow, I need more to hear more of what this guy has to say.
Oh, I love it. Old school's kind of website, phone number, whatever. I'm really focused on using LinkedIn as a social media tool. And if you liked what you heard on the podcast, befriend me on LinkedIn and feel free to private message me.
You write almost like a blog
Twice a
quite
week.
consistently in your LinkedIn profile.
Twice a week. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
There's
I love
even
it.
a picture of my messy bonus room in one of your posts.
There is a picture of your messy bonus. It was only messy because out of the blue, the filing cabinet flew off the wall and unpacked everything in your filing, which I don't know if you've had an exorcist there, but there's something going on in your
Well, the
life.
cabinet is still on the floor, though it's been shoved to the side and things are neatly. I don't even remember what that post was about. You had written a post about, I think it was about the cabinet falling over or something.
I think that chaos happens. I'd have to go back and read it. It was the perfect picture. And for the listeners, I did ask for permission. I won't just take your things and post them.
So good.
Yeah, come find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to meet you.
That's great. What's something you're going to take away from this conversation? When we talked about eating dinner together as a family with gratitudes every night, or befriending money instead of treating it like something that makes you less helping oriented, those aren't just nice ideas. They're practical ways to check in whether your business is actually supporting your life, aligning with your values, or taking it over. And that moment when Jason said you can pay now or you can pay later when it comes to your health really hit home for me as I plan to go into 2026. Turning 50, and I'm realizing that I can't put off taking care of my health any longer. I know you're nodding along to a lot of the stuff we've talked about, so be sure to check out Jason's work. He posts twice a week on LinkedIn. He has a podcast, Wellness Renegade. And if today's conversation really resonated with you, especially that part about building a sustainable occupational therapy practice that doesn't deplete you, I want to let you know about something important. As we move into October, I'm focusing my time less on marketing and more on deepening the work with the practitioners in my coaching community. So if you've been waiting for the deadline to explore the Activate Vitality program with me, reach out this week while I'm still booking new calls. The Activate Vitality program is a community of practitioners who support each other in evolving sustainable, values-aligned businesses. We have group coaching calls, an online community, an ACT-based framework to build entrepreneurial and psychological flexibility, and one-on-one support. It's not about hustling harder. It's about getting clear on what matters to you and building a practice that serves your life instead of taking it over. If you'd like to learn more, head to balanceworks.online/AV program. I'll put a link in the show notes and you can book a call there. There's no pressure, just a conversation about whether this community might be right for you. Thanks for being a part of the Brave OT community. Keep the conversation going in our Facebook group. Thanks for listening. And as always, be brave, OTs.
Be brave.